Once in noble battle, I screamed against the silence. I stood as light against the darkness. Now, I serve a new master. Oblivion.
Hello my Fury Warrior friends, and welcome to my share of thoughts about this specific class in Wotlk expansion. Now remember, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so my goal with this is for you to find something useful that you would like to try and have success with. I'm fairly experienced warrior playing on Warmain Icecrown server and recent seasonal Frostmourne. I have many raids on this class, even with starter nice gear in progressing mentioned Frostmourne server, as well as Ulduar, then Trial of the Crusader, and finally ICC with no buff, ICC with buff on Iceground server, and Light of Dawn 0 buff kill with endgame gear. So to sum it up, I am quite familiar with this class and would consider myself above your average warrior player. For you to know how this video is gonna go, I will try to explain shortly how warrior actually works and very straightforward tips how to increase your DPS. Now there are gonna be certain levels of how serious you can go, so I'm gonna divide from something basic to something that you might not have heard about it yet. One more disclaimer is that this is fairly coming from experience on Warmain, so you will have to see it for yourself, classic enjoyers, if this benefits you too, which I think it most likely does. Let's say 90% of the things in this video would be my guess. So let's talk about how Fury Warrior actually works. This class benefits from 3 important stats: Armor Pen, Strength, Agility. First of all, let's set the main stats in check, like for any other melee class, and that's 26 expertise and 8% hit. Don't forget that you can use 3% in talents and run a buff. Now the whole idea about building warrior's kit with items, gems and professions is to reach approximately 1.4k armor pen. You don't really need to max it to 100%, difference is not visible. Once you reach that armor pen cap, your endgame stat is as much strength as possible. Another thing you can do on aura gem slots is strength plus haste. Warriors Cleave benefit from haste, and I would not suggest crit gems, because crit is RNG stat and you can't really rely on it. Now I understand there is gonna be a lot of you who are progressing or gearing up your warrior in ICC where your time is starting to shine, so gemming warrior in earlier stages should go like this. If you have 900 base armor pen with items, you can start gemming armor pen. Let's say you have around 20 gem slots. If you use all of them on armor pen, that is 1.3k, which is good spot to be on. From there, you want to get more armor pen items and start switching those gems to strength once you reach that earlier mentioned cap. If you still don't have that 900 base, then gemming strength is your best bet. One more thing about this is that you can put on Executioner Enchant around 1.3k armor pen and on procs get that nice 100% cap, but you are losing 400 attack power. I tried this during progressing stage of TOC and it did benefit me for a certain period of time, but until I got better items, double berserker is better. Also, if you put 2 Executioner Enchants, you won't get double proc, just more proc rate from 1. Now, to quickly go over talents, these are never changeable arms talents. And for Fury, you have couple of variations depending on certain things. First, the most important is Rampage buff. The 10 mans you might not have feral, so keep in mind this buff is important for raid and yourself of course. Next thing on priority is using precision talent the best way. Just calculate how much hit you have and need and change appropriately with item changes. Now Unbridled Wrath is very important, especially for not endgame warrior where you will find a lot of rage problems in certain situations. Take 3 to 5 depending on your need. And rage is a must talent where you want to use from 4 to 5 points depending on other mentioned talents. In DLC you will find almost every boss situation where you can proc it, and in ICC for Lich King where you become God. Piercing Howl is gonna be last mandatory talent for ICC and basically again, Lich King fight. Some other good utility talents, especially for progressing, are Improved Demo Shout. If you don't have Bear Tank, or Red and Prot Pala have no Vindication talent. Another utility one is Booming Voice, together with Furious Attacks, specifically for Anup fight, where you can keep 50% healing reduction on boss at big percent of uptime. Keep in mind, this is pure raid helper. It will cost your DPS a lot, so don't get it twisted. On left, I made somewhat base talent tree for progress and lower gear. It's nothing too serious as you can swap around many options depending what you and your guild raid needs. And on the right, we have ultimate ICC talents with stronger gear. For glyphs, usual heroic strike, cleaving and whirlwind. One small exception on endgame gear where rage is not a problem, you can swap heroic glyph with Glyph of Rending or execution one. It increases its damage a bit. And for the professions, I would say best choice is jewel crafting and engineering combo. Second best would be jewel crafting with tailoring. If you are not fan of various item actives from engineering and wish to focus only on your rotation, tailoring can fit that perfectly. 400 extra attack power on roughly 1 minute cooldown can be very useful, especially if it aligns with other procs. Jewel crafting by far should be must-won profession. It's time to jump into action and talk about how this class works gameplay-wise. I will divide this part into few levels based on their difficulty. First thing is rage. At lower gear, it can be quite a problem, where you're AFKing for 5 seconds, not being able to cast single spell, and having no source of incoming damage taken from boss fight. So rage for warrior works, either you're taking damage or that many don't know, landing auto attack with offhand weapon, and if you crit, you get more rage. We only have enough hit rating for our main hand weapon, so often misses from second hurt our rage. I know this specific information won't help you, but it's important that you know about fundamentals of this class. Also, there is big difference getting rage with crit attacks and non-crit attacks. Now you can probably think of bad scenarios where in your one rotation crit is gonna be low and offhand weapon is gonna miss. What helps in these situations is to take damage on purpose during boss encounters that doesn't make raid vibe and literally kills you or take too much damage. Second thing is pay attention to your rage. If you see it way below 50%, you can skip one heroic strike and slam in a rotation. And third thing is you can use this hidden talent, Improved Berserker Rage, that gives you 20 rage on a 30-second cooldown. It's not much, but it still helps. This section is going to be most important for medium, average players who just don't understand why they can't finish better, and it's opener. Opener is very important for almost any class in game. It might variate from boss to boss, but it's usually the same concept. We talk about warrior now, so let's continue. I used to struggle with my warrior when he was still gearing up, around 6.3k gear score. That is not bad state at all, and I found myself unsatisfied with ways I would open boss. So here we go. If it's possible in your guild and raids, ask for 65-second pull timer. It gives you option to pot 3 times for one boss fight. That means one armor pot barely above 60-second pull mark, then normal haste potion before pull, and one more during the fight. At around 11 to 12 seconds of pull, Blood Rage should be activated to get the most rage out of it. It's 4 to 5 seconds before pull and time to pop Recklessness. Just before pull, Deathwish, Potion and Engineering Hands. If no Monkey Ninja pulls. With this method, we successfully popped every big buff cooldown before fight starts and prepare to blast on start. Now the first opening rotation goes like this. Your Heroic Strike should be activated before pull as you're going to combine with Bloodthirst. As soon as your GCD goes off, last stack of Recklessness is used on Whirlwind. With this way, we utilized our main spells to do as much damage in fast period of time. As you can see, right after Whirlwind, our Bloodthirster came back from cooldown and it fits the rotation perfectly. Where after using it for second time, the opener is finished with nice heroic throw, who benefits so good with all the procs on pull since it works based on attack power. Let's see that one more time 10 seconds before pull in normal rate with no pause. Most important thing to realize here is that the biggest killer about Recklessness is Whirlwind and Intercept. Whirlwind will swallow all your stacks, so that's why we want to use it last, and Intercept can steal one as well. I will repeat again, opener is very important. Don't forget, DPS is literally doing most possible damage throughout period of time. The more you do from very start, more you will finish. This level is a bit tricky as it requires you to adapt to each fight and situation. Rotation and priority is probably where after opener you make most mistakes. Let's start with single target. As you can see, highest damage spells are Heroic Strike, Bloodthirst, Whirlwind, Slam, Execute, with Rend being used preferably above 75% HP of target. Also, when rage is not low and you're able to execute switching stances fast without losing your DPS. I will talk about Rend more specifically later. Now Heroic Strike is like an auto attack. Spell should be spammed permanently. People say good warrior is one with cramped fingers after 1 hour in raid. So after the opener, whole idea is to have your Heroic Strike on spam, Bloodthirst on cooldown with priority over Whirlwind. What's important here is that you really respect these spells, as they are your highest damage sources in kit. Where you are most likely making mistake is that you use Slam proc but your Bloodthirster or Whirlwind are coming right off cooldown. Problem there is that you delay the more important spells and in long run lose more DPS. Slam needs to be considered as filler when your Bloodthirster and Whirlwind are down or coming off cooldown roughly 2 last seconds. You have small window chance to use it without affecting the main mentioned spells. Watch the timer here on Bloodthirster. As soon as it hits 2-second mark, it's your last chance to use it. If you fail to react on time, it becomes too late and your Bloodthirst is on another GCD. Bloodthirster has priority over Whirlwind as it has lesser cooldown. Execute is also another filler and has lower priority than Slam. It's used only if you don't have slam proc in lasting moments of boss fight. Gonna mention heroic throw one more time, regardless of opener. Best way to utilize its damage is to wait some attack power procs and use it as filler like slam or execute. Depending if you are in progressing stage, endgame, or something in between all of that, you should always use Sunder. Now that can be a real pain in the ass if you are only warrior in raid. In that case, what you can do on start after opener is use every Sunder instead of slam until you have 5, then continue normally. With 2 or even 3 warriors in raid, it's very easy to stack it fast if they all respect it. Rend is a good spell to fill out DPS while you're unable to attack boss. I will explain what I mean by that in this clip. This is Sindragosa 25 heroic in ICC. She is about to go into flight phase and won't be in your range to attack for next 40 seconds. Rend can be utilized here perfectly as you are going to use it just before she flies, leaving a dot on her lasting roughly 20 seconds. This is just one example which you can use on many boss encounters. Now this ability does 35% more damage on target above 75% HP. Even though that is substantial damage, you can always rend when the time is right and with correct method. Again to mention, rend should be used when 1. Your Bloodthirster and Whirlwind are on cooldown, 2. When you don't have slam proc, and 3. When you have no rage problem with Blood Rage ability preferably up. With that being said, we are squeezing in a free bleeding dot which won't affect your DPS at all, and here is how. First of all, this is the macro you need for it. Now we are DPSing for a while, an opportunity came where we just used Bloodthirster, and Whirlwind is approximately 5-second cooldown. You have no slam proc and acknowledge that rage is fine, plus blood rage being ready to use. At this point, we are going to switch to battle stance. Start spamming our macro that will use rend on the target, and right after switches back to berserker stance, while using heroic strike all this time in both stances. After the switching stance back, you can find yourself with low rage. This is where blood rage comes in and helps us continue the rotation like nothing happened. I will play this segment one more time in normal speed without pausing. This mechanic requires practice, so make sure to spend some time at target dummy before doing it in raids. There is also a glyph for rend which increases its duration, but I would only suggest this at endgame gear. Gonna show a bit of everything said about single target rotation with gameplay. I've set up addon so you can keep track of spell order I'm using. Now, let's talk about AoE rotation. Cleave is a very powerful spell for warriors, and you should always use it, even when there is only one extra target next to the main one. Important thing about it is how you position yourself and not let your cleaves go to waste. What I mean by that is literally not facing your back to the close surrounding targets. Here you can see that my back is facing target to the left. Hence, all the cleaves from this position won't deal damage to it. Think of it as imaginary line, which should be in between you and your targets. This is a good example how you should face your character. For this, I would highly recommend bird's eye view, as it helps knowing if you are correctly positioned or not. Also, having this default classic pop-out damage number helps as well. If there is moving for certain boss fights, make sure to reposition yourself and pay attention on what's going on. Here you can see that I have a lot of ghouls on me, and because of moving, they are not in front of me. Now I will change side and face them forward, where with retaliation my DPS spikes drastically. Let's talk about Whirlwind and when it becomes priority over Bloodthirst. Imagine a boss fight with additional targets. We have a situation where lowest HP target is about to die. The thing here is even if our Bloodthirst is ready to use, we want to utilize last GCD of this dying target with Whirlwind. Because of this, we need to ignore Bloodthirst and wait Whirlwind to come off cooldown. This way we output most damage in given situation and not make mistake using Bloodthirst brain deadly on cooldown. Scenarios like this require good knowledge of boss encounters, getting used to how fast those dying targets are gonna die, leaving you to decide do you have time to squeeze in that Bloodthirst before they do or not. Same concept goes for adds who are about to spawn or get into your AoE range. Here is perfect example with priority on Whirlwind is good. After the charge to these adds, I have both Bloodthirst and Whirlwind ready. I know based of playing this fight countless times, if I don't use my GCD on Whirlwind, they will die and I will lose too much damage. Another example in this clip where 3 ghouls are about to spawn and I have Whirlwind ready. If I use it right away, I will catch only this one add-on left. So important thing here is to wait for them all to be up before using it. I found one more detail in TOGC at Jaraxxus, where I make mistake using Bloodthirst as this ad is about to die. If I waited just 1 second and ignored the Bloodthirst, I would have caught 3 targets with my Whirlwind instead of 2. Now that we passed through most important, let's go over to the very minimal upgrade to your DPS. But still useful, interesting and fun methods if you are a fan of such min-max ways. Let's start with Oil of Immolation. It's oil from alchemy that doesn't overlap with regular potion cooldown, so you can use it anytime. As you can see, the damage is very minimal, but the trick is that it procs deep wounds. Deep wounds is one of the top warrior damage sources, as a passive debuff on target which occurs when you crit. Now you will have big uptime on single target as it counts for melee crits too. The power comes for AoE where some of your cleave and whirlwind targets are not crits. This is very beneficial in situations where there is more than 4 targets around you and your cleave and whirlwind are not even capable to proc it. But don't be shy to use it on less or even single target as it has no cooldown. As you can see, we are getting many procs. Second thing in this segment is going to be Scrolls of Strength and Agility. Make sure to buy or make with inscription highest ones. This particular item buff is gonna come in very useful in 10 mans, where you don't have all the raid buffs. Try to have them on cooldown, as having your only DK in raid dead, or he forgot to refresh Horn, and same thing with Shaman being dead, or not repositioning totems to be in range. It's better to have at least roughly 70 attack power in that case. Over to the next one, and that's Retaliation. Retaliation is in majority very known spell, and in theory you should know how it works. Make sure to use it in boss fights where you have adds aggro on you. Also, it's important that they face you, so keep in mind when you use it how you position yourself, otherwise it will do nothing. One crucial boss fight where not many know it works is Lord Marogar. While he spins, his cleave can actually be retaliated, so you wanna quickly swap to battle stance, pop retaliation and go back to DPSing. Pay attention in top right corner how my retaliation stacks are being used and how it spikes my DPS, pushing me to the top. Try to do this while Bloodthirst and Whirlwind are on cooldown, so you can make the most out of time spent on swapping stances back and forth. You can get up to 50k damage in this situation. Switching to another useful tool for Fury Warrior, and in this case it's in defensive stance. Intervene can save your DPS loss while needing to move, close large gap between you and your target, especially if Nitro Boots and Intercept are on cooldown. It can work on totems, and pets as well. While needing to cover big distance and having all spell cooldowns up, make sure to combine first Intervene to your ally, then Intercept to enemy target. You are going to find this mechanic very useful since closing gap and maneuvering around is good for almost every boss. Good example in this clip where I need to run out because of transition and AoE on the ground, which I cannot take a lot. I left random boss in lasting moments of phase to add a bit of damage while I'm unable to attack him, then quickly switched stance and intervened back out to safety. Next quite useful mechanic, and it's Sapper Charge from Engineering. Of course, it does damage to nearby targets and you should use it always, as well as Saronite bombs. But one more thing about Sapper is that it can proc not only deep wounds or your trinkets, but enrage as well. Now you can imagine a boss fight where this talent won't proc, so using Sapper for a chance of up to 10% increased damage is more than worth it. To finalize this segment, we have quite secret mechanic similar to Sapper concept. We are talking about Dark Rune. It works like Warlock's life tap and it's on a 15-minute cooldown. For Warrior on the other hand, this HP sacrifice can grant you enrage proc, if you are lucky. Again, very worth to try for sake of boosting DPS when this talent can't proc. Well, we've come to the end, and on that note, I'd like to say a few more things. I get that most of you know about majority of this stuff, as well as other majority doesn't, and the rest is in between. So if you found yourself not getting anything useful from this video, make sure to comment and add something I forgot, or ask me a particular thing that you have problem with and I'll answer. I purposely left out itemization because that should, in my opinion, be video on its own. If you feel I should make another one about it, feel free to let me know in comments. And also share your idea whatever you would want me to go over and discuss like this. To finalize, yes, Fury Warriors are simple, but there is always room to improve. And I bet some of you are going to improve depending on how advanced are you with this class in first place. To show precisely what I mean, take a look at this graph. Let's say hypothetically, there are 3 types of warrior players based on how good they are, or in this case, DPS. We have one that is at 10k, we have second one that is at 15k, and we have third one that is at 20k. These numbers were used just for explanation, no real meaning whatsoever. Now what I think these methods in my video are gonna do is increase every player in their own lane. First one is gonna jump to 14k, second one is gonna jump to 17.5 to 18k, and third one is gonna jump to 21.5 to 22k. Now to be clear, having good gear and RNG matters a lot. Perfect example is in this guild run where we were trying to get timers, playing risky with 1 tank and 2 heal. Look at the DPS. All these warriors are same gear, same enchants, gems, and all stats that don't even come close to 1% difference. Now after the wipe, we redo everything exactly the same way, but standings are different. You can do everything right, but luck sometimes just won't be on your side. It's important to be known, all you players who strive to be best and reach success that you wish. It's possible with time, practice, and good guidance that I hope was from me. Thank you for watching.
I touched the stars and saw the glorious light of 1,000 suns. Now, blinded by this elegance, how could my purpose be anything but dark?
My love, my fearless love, I will not say goodbye. Sea may rise, sky may fall,